What was the weirdest, most inappropriate or most unexpected thing you were asked during a job interview? What does your father do for work? I was like 24 years old. Pretty sure he was seeing how little he could pay me. I got asked this. More like wanted to know my background. Some folks then knew my mom, as she designed one of their employee insurance benefits with one of the older HR people there. They weren't prepared for my answer. He is deceased but was assigned to this factory XX years back. He designed a wastewater treatment here and some other things before you guys took over the factory. I was asked over the span of about 5 questions if I would let employees steal. What would you do if you saw a customer walk out the door with product? I would tell the manager and not confront him. The correct answer for almost all retail companies. But not this one apparently. What if it was your store? Many retailers and you were the manager? I would try to stop them or call the cops. What if it was an employee trying to steal something really cheap like a 1 water bottle? I wouldn't let them steal, so I'd tell a manager. What if they have been having family troubles and their checks haven't come in, so they have no money but need that water? I would offer to pay for them so they don't feel like they have to steal. What if you left your wallet at home that day? What am I even supposed to say to that? Lovers an adult toy accessories shop in the US hands you an elephant-sized, wiggly-ass dildo and asks you to describe it. You giggle, you loose. I lost. This was quite a while ago, and I was interviewing for a janitorial position at a private middle school. The interview was going well. The interviewer was asking me why I wanted to work there, what my previous job experience was, etc. The bog standard interview questions. Out of absolutely nowhere, he asks, "You're not attracted to underage girls, are you?" I was taken aback for a moment, and just sort of stared at him waiting for clarification. I think it only occurred to him after having said it how weird the question was, and he quickly started to give some context. Turns out the previous janitor had attempted some sexual advances on some underage students. I was just there to sweep the floors for some cash, not commit a felony. I had a guy end my interview by asking me what my favorite ABBA song was. I was so caught off guard and honestly kind of creeped out, because I could not figure out how he knew that I loved ABBA. I found out later that when he spoke to my references, he asked him to tell him something about me that wasn't on my resume, and my old boss told him that I was a huge ABBA fan. What are the chances of you leaving your spouse if we relocate you? You mean, for a period of time until we figure out our living situation? No. I mean, would you divorce him if you had to move to, say, Europe, for the job? Wow. Also, this was a local advertising agency. They didn't even have that many national clients. But also, the interviewer then continuously called and messaged me for days after I declined their offer. So I don't know. First question of an interview: wait, aren't you the guy who owes me that $1,000? Realized after 3 of the longest seconds in my life that he was joking. But boy, that caught me off guard. I had an adversarial interview once. Passed the skills interview and was sent on to the guy who would be my manager if I got the job. He made a big show of throwing my resume in the trash and told me the next best use would be to wipe his ass with it since he went to Yale and I didn't. And why did I think I deserved the job? I didn't say anything. Just got up and walked out. This was at AIG. Remember them? Lol. I was interviewing for a hiring manager position at a temp agency in Toledo, Ohio. The interviewer asked me how comfortable would I be if business client only wanted to hire certain types of employees. I probed for more information. After several probing questions, it was apparent that some of the businesses who hired this agency to find talent only wanted people from certain zip codes and wanted to omit certain zip codes altogether. I did not get the job because I stated that I would find and deliver the most qualified candidate regardless of where they lived. No biggie. I am in a much better place now. Would I be okay with going shirtless? Small private casino company that mostly did charity fake money events with prizes like champagne and chocolates. Corporate gigs etc. I was hired as a blackjack croupier and that's the job I went for. Advertised as above. Corporate events and charity events. Dealing blackjack. Must be good with people if you knew me, that would make your gut bust. The woman interviewing me gave me the job, then asked would I be willing to wear just collars and cuffs like a male stripper. Turns out they also did stag and hen nights and would ask new employees if they'd like to be considered for those shifts. But it requires the women to wear bikinis and men to wear only collars and cuffs. No shirt but wearing dress pants. They paid twice the rate for it. Was not expecting that question, I can be honest. Does lie detector during the hiring process count? I was asked if I did ever had sex with animals. That question certainly caught me off guard. Edit, this was for a job as a sheriff's deputy. I was a private nanny. I have been asked many questions that would not be considered appropriate in any other job interview. I've been asked how often I shower, whether I have ever been to a therapist, psychiatrist, if I am promiscuous, if I have ever had an affair with an employer, how much I typically eat in a day, do I have a partner, what religion I am, whether I was gay or straight, if I had ever been bribed or had anyone ever attempt to bribe me, whether I had ever taken nude pictures, etc. Not all in the same interview. Which teacher did you hate the most and why? I answered that I had disagreed with the teacher over a book I didn't like it and it was her favorite and she knocked points off all my future tests. Interviewer said it was unprofessional to not like a teacher and I clearly had no interview experience. So yeah. Didn't he get that internship? Edit, book was Electra. Thought it was stupid that everyone was mad over Agamemnon, who I thought was kind of shitty. You dodged a bullet. Imagine having to work with that moron. I once had a cold on the day of a phone interview at a speech therapist office. I started the call by apologizing that I was losing my voice and explained I had a cold. The interviewer, a speech therapist, asked me twice what was wrong with my voice. The first time she asked, I repeated that I had a cold and asked if that was relevant to the interview. It was not. She assured me. The second time she asked, I told her thanks but I wasn't interested anymore. What kind of PRN do you like? I was in the process of getting a government job that required a high security clearance. I was being interviewed by an agent. Most of the questions were pretty basic but this one caught me out of left field. One interview I was asked 2 weird questions for an interviewer's list. 1, favorite superhero and why. 2, do you believe in aliens? Why or why not? 30-second elevator pitch. For an IT security position, if your employer asked you to do something illegal, would you do it? Now, before anyone hollers that this isn't inappropriate. I found out later that the job had been vacated by a friend of mine, who they fired after he refused to do something illegal for them. In my experience, a lot of illegal things are asked of IT. Wait, why? In various jobs I've had requests to give management access to mailboxes of employees, usually because they weren't performing well. Sometimes the manager knew it wasn't okay or he did the proper preparations. In other cases they didn't know or plain ignored it. The same goes for logging internet activity. Companies who don't want to pay all of their licenses. Old spam filters that require manual intervention and mail being read. etc. And to be fair, generally it's not because people are having evil maniacs. And for IT personnel, they're often not aware of all the laws and regulations either. And it's not their job to check all the details. They're not lawyers. In 20 years of IT, this has landed me in court once after a manager went a step further and had someone's mailbox combed. Can you make your breasts smaller? They might be a distraction for some of our patients here. This was at a hospital, and I wasn't wearing anything provocative. I just have big boobs. I didn't get the job. They told me it was because I was too inexperienced. Can you make your breasts smaller? Yeah. I will just wear my work titties. They asked me if I could stop my dialysis treatments so I can be more available. Yeah, Karen. Let me just die for less than 15 an hour. As a man being asked about a spouse. Do you have a wife? No. Well, gay marriage is legal in this state. I assume you do not have a husband. No. A while back I got out of the Navy. That old saying is true, swear like a sailor. I applied for a program called Helmets to Hard Hats that finds jobs in skilled labor trades for veterans. My father is good friends with the guy who was in charge of the local branch of an elevator company. So I applied to the International Union of Elevator Constructors and was granted an interview. Union interviews, as I am told, usually consist of several prominent members of the union. In this case it included my father's friend. So I show up to the interview and sit down with 5 high-ranking union members. My name is Richard. My dad's friend says, "So Richard, what do you like to go by, Rick?" "Ricky." "Richard." "Dick." Before I could stop myself I sarcastically replied, "It's cock actually." I pretended like everything was normal and the interview continued after an awkward pause. I did get the job and was admitted as an apprentice. Everyone still calls me Cock. TLDR guy asked me, "Richard, if I go by Dick?" I sarcastically replied Cock. And now everyone calls me Cock. "Are you pregnant?" And after I said no, "Are you planning to get pregnant?" Edit to clarify a few things. It was a research position. It was in the UK. It is illegal to ask this question here. I did report her eventually. Nothing was done. Edit 2, the research was in computer science. Basically nothing dangerous, just working with programming. Had an interviewer who unexpectedly asked me what my spirit animal was at the end of the interview. I didn't know what to say, but the first thing that popped out of my head was a bear, because the thought of hibernating and being lazy on cold seasons sounds like something I did do. It's the most stupidest reply I could give. He ended up being one of the best, if not the nicest and funniest boss I ever had. Interviewer: "Do you know how to swim?" Me: "No." Interviewer: "Get out. Were you applying to be a lifeguard?" LMAO: "Nope. Software engineer." Listen, I have nothing against hiring a chick for the job, but I can't afford to have you go off on maternity leave. So are you planning on getting locked up in the near future? He asked me if I believed in Bigfoot. That was the weirdest and yet least alarming thing discussed at my interview. Very first job I interviewed for was a movie theater while I was still in high school. Manager: "Are you available Sunday morning?" Me: "Yes, I have open availability." Manager: "So you do not attend church Sunday morning?" Me: "No. I am free." Manager: "Oh. So you're gonna burn in heck?" Me: "Sorry. Huh?" Manager: "Nothing, it's fine." I was a bit nervous at my first job interview for a full-time job when I was 18. I applied as a wedding dress salesperson. I had a part-time job at a rival bridal store years earlier, and I think the owners sensed that I was nervous because one asked me if I had a boyfriend and if working on the weekends would give me less time with him. Before I could answer, the second owner asked, "Han, is he a good kisser?" All I could muster is, "Oh, yes, alright," and spent the rest of the interview discussing whether or not they can plan a wedding between me and the good kisser. Anyways, I got the job. Worked there for 5 years and married a good kisser. Does profanity and yelling bother you? That should have been an instant Texas-sized red flag. The interview was in Dallas after all. But this was the only job interview I had coming out of college, and with student loan payments looming, I needed a goddamn job. So I still took this one. Never could have imagined what awaited me. I swear one of the owners of the company, the one I worked with most, was unmedicated bipolar or something. One minute he would be handing you $100 bills for just being there, and the next he'd be red in the face throwing a kindergarten-style temper tantrum, screaming and swearing at you. It was completely unpredictable. One day I was working with a new employee and we were walking across a warehouse with some tools to move some equipment. He comes up to us and asks us what we were doing. I say we were getting ready to move that piece of equipment over there. He asks what we were doing right now, and I repeat myself. He starts screaming something about not hiring us to duck off wasting time and stomps off with a couple of his managers following him, who he promptly screams at to get away from him. When I gave my 2 weeks notice a few months later, that same dude comes and talks to me and literally tells me that when they first hired me they thought I was stupid. But since they put me on the project renovating that warehouse into a manufacturing facility, I did been killing it. He proceeded to offer me a managerial position in the building when it was up and running, which would include a 60 raise. I did have been making $60K only a year out of college, which for my degree is pretty good. Still quit because I did seen the shit other managers had to deal with, and it was way worse than what I dealt with. They were the layer between me and the company ownership. So they were dealing with the dude even more than me, and I was just done with that. I also just didn't like where I was living. I am not a city person, and the more I saw of DFW, the more I hated living there. And summers were absolutely miserable. That turned into a much longer post than I was expecting it to. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.